caught her sword forward, blocking Deng Ho's wind-breaking blow. Being stopped by that sword made her hit the ground unsteadily. A few soldiers stood watching the two beauties dance with swords and exclaimed. They did not expect that this princess she could block an attack from Miss Murong. Even if she was on the second floor of the fusion realm, the distance between the floors was still small. Not a little. The guy next to him also opened his mouth and replied, "So what? It must have been relying on some secret treasure that His Royal Highness the Sixth Prince gave him to be able to temporarily block Miss Murong's attack. Oh well, the strength of the 5-layer fusion realm is something she can block. She will definitely be defeated quickly." Qilin blocked that blow. The two swords touched each other and emitted a blinding light. She thought to herself that the force was too strong. Deng Hoa saw that Qilin and herself were not happy to stay in the same position, so they jumped up high. The extremely strong thrust caused Qilin to fall to the ground. She stood up, wiped the blood from her lips and sighed. As expected of a powerhouse who had merged with the 5th level. Her heart was unhappy and she couldn't use her strength. But she couldn't admit defeat like that if she were to separate from Mac. In Doc Lang, all plans are a waste of effort. Murong Hoan Hai once again took a fighting stance, sword raised above his head and rushed down screaming loudly. There was an opening. This time, Qilin was no longer startled. She waved her sword and immediately blocked Deng Ho's move. Seeing that, she frowned and asked, "What?" Qilin's hand holding the sword suddenly flashed with rays of light. She bowed her head curiously to look at her hand and gasped. The ring was glowing. Several mandarins standing there were equally astonished. The spirit protectors and spiritual tools for cultivating the foot were classified based on their ranks. Magic tools, spiritual weapons, magic weapons, spiritual treasures and ancient treasures. The green-clothed old man next to him also opened his mouth and pointed. The power of the magic weapon just now clearly surpassed the level of a top-quality magic weapon. At least a spiritual treasure. But even in this Manhwa dynasty, there are only 3 magical weapons above the spiritual treasure level. The queen was stunned, sweating and worried about her beloved girl. How could she have this level of treasure? Could it be a secret treasure left behind by a noble? Qilin dropped the sword, but the ring on her hand continued to glow. She wondered what was going on. The surrounding aura was constantly condensing into it. Deng Hoa took the opportunity to not hold her sword, quickly rushed forward and slashed at the same time. But who would have thought that as soon as she let go, her sword broke in half, and the power from the ring immediately rebounded, causing her to painfully fling out. Qilin began to feel dizzy. Her body gradually lost control. She was so worried and uncomfortable. This force seemed to want to swallow her. She lost control and screamed loudly. Ah! Those eyes suddenly turned red. Her face darkened. The hand with that airflow was directed straight at Deng Hoa, who was sitting on the ground. She muttered a few words with a scary voice. "I must definitely win the battle, sister." This. Murong Hoa's face suddenly darkened with fear. His breath was so scary. A certain referee saw that Deng Hoa was about to die and immediately rushed up and waved a sword to protect her. That was enough. She no longer had the ability to resist. Qilin sounded like lightning struck her ears. She angrily turned around, waved her hand, and the guy shot away, spitting out several mouthfuls of blood. The officials were afraid of peeing their pants and cried, "Crazy, crazy." As expected, all of them are not of my clan and have strange minds. The old man next to him was also stunned. The power of this sword had already reached the mind-shaking level of the 5th level. The queen angrily pointed her finger and shouted, "That's counterintuitive. Arrest her for this palace." Seeing that the situation was not good, Doc Lang immediately changed color. "It's broken. With Qilin's current cultivation level, he can't control this ancient magic weapon. If the mind is completely devoured, it will become a killing machine. Why did this pit system give me such a dangerous tool? It's really troublesome." He thought to himself, how long can this system and card be maintained? He quickly opened the system to see, Doc Lang, male gender, 0 cultivation, size 2x, then he pressed to select the needle card. The most important period. The system quickly displayed information. Because Qilin's favorability increased, it unlocked the level of cultivation to the 5th level of the mind, but it could only last about 10 seconds, but now the system checked. It was discovered that the value of Qilin's spiritual energy fluctuation is the 3rd level of the mind, so the host can safely suppress her. Doc Lang held the card shyly. "Thank you for reminding me. I didn't expect you to be so kind." Having finished speaking, he held the card up high. Immediately his arms seemed to split into 4. These cards emitted golden light. Suddenly his eyes stopped as if he saw something wrong. Spiritual energy continuously flows into the dantian. In the blink of an eye, power flooded his body. His eyes glowed brightly. His whole body emitted light like golden flames. He opened his eyes, his whole body filled with energy, and exclaimed, "This feeling is so good." As soon as he stepped closer, Qilin immediately felt it. She said, "Ah, this aura is too strong." Doc Lang rushed forward like lightning and jumped high, making Qilin startled and looked up to ask what was happening. Doc Lang used his hand to punch Qilin directly in the stomach. She felt pain. The area in front of her chest seemed to be exhausted. Doc Lang continued to reach back and hit the back of his head, causing Qilin to lose consciousness, and her eyes rolled back. Qilin immediately fainted in his arms after being affected. Doc Lang smiled and praised himself. The solution was perfect. His arm was still in the place where it was still glowing. A few people stood there watching again, gaping as they watched Doc Lang carry Qilin away. Since when did the sixth prince become so strong? Isn't a purine body impossible to cultivate? The guy next to him looked up at Murong Min Noyet, his face dark, and asked, "Could it be that the queen deceived us?" Doc Lang held his wife in his arms and walked in front of the queen. "Mother, Qilin has won the competition today. Don't mention the matter of retiring anymore. Even if you're not a relative, I won't hate you because of this. I don't even think about refilling cards." His heart was tickled. What a joke. This Qilin, good or bad, was a villain in the original text. If I really accepted her, then she wouldn't have eaten me alive. The queen still had a clearly dissatisfied look on her face and said, "Forget it. Let's all go down. This palace is tired." She turned away with hatred in her heart. She didn't expect that the sixth prince would hide it so deeply. She had to investigate carefully. Deng Hoa looked at Doc Lang carrying Qilin away. He was also frustrated. He didn't expect to lose. He could only find another way. That night, as soon as Qilin woke up, she was brought food to nourish her. She frowned and looked at Doc Lang and asked, "What happened during the competition today? Why didn't I remember anything after I woke up? My last memory stopped at the protective item, this body." She held out the ring and continued asking, "Where did you get this treasure from? How many more secrets do you have hidden from me?" Doc Lang was startled. "He ha ha. You've been thinking too much. I accidentally found this thing in a cave while traveling. I'm simply keeping it with me." He smiled brightly. His eyes closed. He couldn't see the sun and said it truthfully. After finishing speaking, he quickly ran to his wife and said a few romantic words that made Qilin blush. Furthermore, only a husband can satisfy his wife, so why do you still doubt me? Being teased, her cheeks turned red. Qilin quickly pulled her hand back and turned away, snorting, "Less talkative in front of me." Doc Lang looked at the system notification of Qilin's favorability from -90 to -85 and was secretly happy. Great, the favorability has increased again. System notification, current cultivation level, Golden Dance stage 1 day, cooldown time, 1 day, expression changed. He thought to himself, it seems that increasing favorability can also increase the level of cultivation that we can use. It seems that the most important task right now is still to increase favorability. But this recovery time also takes a day, which is quite a bit long. Qilin stood up and ran away. "Let's go take a shower first." Doc Lang looked after her and said, "Okay." The guy behind him frowned and muttered, "Tuku, what is the origin of that ring?" Seeing its owner calling it, it immediately appeared. The system board displays complete information. Lin Lung Ring, innate spiritual treasure level. Information, once sealed an evil great demon primeval. The previous owners all died unjustly. It is said that although wearing this ring can receive great power, it will also take away your mind. Even though it is considered an unlucky item, there are still many people who want it. The last owner abandoned it to the demon race. After being sealed, it disappears. The ability to protect the body appeared about 300 years ago. The male protagonist of the original novel suddenly appeared and shouted, "Hey, hey, hey, am I wrong? I am the male protagonist of this novel." Doc Lang took the lead. He threw it aside and said, don't rush. It's not time for you to appear yet." At this time, Qilin was in the bathroom soaking in rose water. Her whole body felt tired, and a mysterious purple light suddenly appeared in front of her. In the space in the sea of consciousness Qilin, the demon race appeared. The feeling of oppression was so strong, these auras were so familiar. Qilin looked at the nine-tailed fox in front of her and asked, "I wonder what happened when the demon clan entered my sea of consciousness." It wagged its tail and replied, "Junior, I was trapped in that ring. I used my soul to enter your sea of consciousness and wanted you to make a deal with me." Half an hour later, Qilin stepped out of the bathroom. She walked to the bed and gently sat down. Doc Lang walked over and stammered to explain what happened just now. "Miss, that ring," she happily said. "I don't need to shed blood to recognize the owner of that ring. Won't my husband notice?" Looking at his sweet and succulent wife in front of him, Doc Lang was happy. He didn't care. He secretly said in his heart, "I wouldn't dare to care. Moreover, you are the only big villain in the story, a great demon. What can I do to you? I should still take care of this small life of mine." Qilin raised her hand to touch Doc Lang's cheek and said sweetly, "If that's the case, would you mind going into a dream with me?" Hearing these words, Doc Lang was as stiff as glue. His cheeks suddenly turned red. He stammered in response. "Okay." Qilin was happy because she had a plan. She agreed with the nine-tailed fox to share half of the negative energy she received with her first, and after she received the negative energy, she would repair her soul. After that, I will teach her techniques to you. The two sides of her shirt suddenly opened, revealing a pair of succulent grapefruits. Doc Lang said, "Husband must persevere, cannot surrender easily. She thinks about this business. No matter how she thinks about it, it doesn't look bad. If I can get my inheritance, it will increase strongly. Just a small bit of negative energy. Just absorb a little more and it will be enough." She sat on the bed, her beauty captivating any man. She looked at Doc Lang with an infatuated look and asked, "Hasn't your husband eaten yet today?" Doc Lang quickly replied, "Now I will show you my wife's power." Night fell, and the next morning, Doc Lang sat pale on the bed and thought to himself, "I was almost sucked dry." He glanced over and hummed, somehow feeling a bit strange. Thinking about it, he immediately used the investigation card. A dark green smoke screen appeared in front of him. He looked at that and silently asked, "Isn't this the Queen's subordinate Van Dao? I heard that this person is not highly cultivated but knows all kinds of strange magic. Why did she come here? Looks like the Queen is playing tricks again." Notification system. Activates hidden quests. Increases Van Dao's favorability to 50 in the absence of props. Quest rewards. Mature level upgrade card. Cooldown reduced to half a day. Duration increased to 15 seconds. Unlocks another card. Temporary card. After reading it, Doc Lang was startled. He held his head in pain. "Lying to you, without using props, how would you increase your favorability? But you certainly couldn't let Qilin's blackness increase any higher. Furthermore, the reward of this mission is truly attractive." Having said this, he raised his hand to stroke his chin. His expression changed, and said, "No way, I can only grit my teeth and try." He walked to the front of the hospital room. The door slowly opened, light seeping in. Van Dao was startled and turned around and asked, "Who is there?" Doc Lang stepped inside. His hand grabbed the hem of his shirt and pulled it down. "Miss, what are you doing hiding in the house next door to me so early in the morning?" After that, he immediately started his next handsome guy. Looking at Van Dao with zero favorability in front of her, her face darkened and she bit her lip in anger. Doc Lang secretly shouted, "Oh my God, she doesn't look very easy to play with." Remember when he hadn't traveled in time, he often watched these love stories. There was a sentence that made the rich lady spend 500,000 on you. 100 ways to teach you to pursue a girl, protect her, how to get her heart. Rich lady's heart. He was now proud, his shirt pulled low on his shoulders. Fortunately, I had read a few related books before. He looked at Van Dao and said, "Aren't you the Van Dao next to the Queen? Why did you run to my palace?" She didn't even look at him. Her eyes closed, and replied, "I'm working according to the Queen's arrangements. The sixth prince doesn't need to worry. On the contrary, His Highness just got married and it's early in the morning." Ran to the next room. "Isn't that even more strange?" He walked over, grabbed her shoulder, and said, "Miss Van Dao, but I don't know. I was also forced to marry Qilin." She saw a hand clinging to her shoulder and immediately cried out in fear, "Let go!" But not only did he not let go, but he also continued, "Who knows, her nature is cold-blooded and brutal, making it very difficult to live with. She looks like Miss Van Dao. She knows the agent at a glance." She got goosebumps hearing this. The favorability level immediately increased to 40. Van Dao's face turned red and shyly pushed Doc Lang away. "Sixth Prince, don't say contemptuous words. I am a few years older than Sixth Prince." Looking at the increase in goodwill, he continued, "Miss Van Dao has an appearance like a flower, like a moon. Of course age is not a problem. On the contrary, the Queen always keeps you by her side, doing important work, truly heaven's destruction, unlike my lady. When the time comes, I will make Qilin my concubine and make you my royal concubine." The more Van Dao listened,